Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, DJ Youngs, back again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's a podcast, so I know you can catch me anytime, any place, anywhere. So I just want to cover all the salutations. Greetings, everybody. We are back for another episode, and not any episode. This is the draft episode. All right, last two episodes were like the pre-draft episodes, getting you guys prepared for the day. And it is time to review what has happened. Thankfully, this is the episode you get after everything wraps up. So after the 3 days have passed and all the rounds are completed. All right, so I'm definitely going to be giving you as much information as I can possibly do within this time slot. All right, so today's episode will be done a little different. We usually start with new news and go from there. Well, there technically isn't really that much new news, nothing that's more relevant than what's going on as far as who's all drafted, where, and what teams, moved around and who they got. On top of that, there's only one really big thing that is easily to have a discussion about once I get to the team it regards to. So, my plan here for this episode, as you guys are tuned in, man, we usually do these 4 segments. In the 4 segments, what I will be aiming to do is cover 2 divisions per segment. Okay, so we're going to go through each team's draft picks, when they picked them, who they picked, and how we think the team's looking, if these were the right picks or not. And, of course, those will be quick comments because we got 32 teams to get through in a short amount of time. So let's get to it, all right? The way I'm going to start off is I'm going to start off in the AFC South because clearly one of the teams had the first pick. And with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do based off this how each team ended last season. From, of course, worst being at the bottom to the top. That's how we're going to review their picks and everything. So, in this case, Jaguars were the worst team in the AFC South, which is also part of the reason why they have the first pick. Okay, we'll give the quick rundown for the first round, just the first round, just because, it's the more exciting one people look forward to and debate and make bets on and things of that nature. So I'm going to do that real quick before I get into the Jaguar, all of their picks as a whole. But to give you guys a quick reminder, this is how the first round looked. Pick number 1 overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence from Clemson, quarterback. All right. Pick number 2, BYU quarterback Zach Wilson to the Jets. 3, which was the trade with the Dolphins that San Francisco 49ers got. They decided to select quarterback out of North Dakota State, Trey Lance. All right. Tight end, number 4, tight end out of Florida, Kyle Pitts went to Atlanta Falcons. The number 5 pick for the Bengals, they selected receiver Jamar Chase out of LSU. Number 6, which originally was supposed to be the Eagles pick, but now that belongs to the Dolphins. They selected wide receiver Jalen Waddle out of Alabama. Number 7, offensive tackle Penny Sewell went to the Detroit Lions. Number 8, J.C. Horn, the cornerback out of South Carolina, went to the Carolina Panthers. Number 9 pick, the Denver Broncos selected cornerback Pat Surtain II out of Alabama. All right, now the number 10 pick was a trade. It originally belonged to the Cowboys, who traded it to the Eagles for their 3rd round pick in order for them to select receiver Devontae Smith out of Alabama. Pretty sure they moved up to get him right before the Giants could grab him, who would have had the next pick. But actually, the Giants ended up trading their 11th pick to the Chicago Bears so that they could move up and select quarterback Justin Fields out of Ohio State. Number 12 was, where the Eagles were, but now the Cowboys are there now. They selected inside linebacker out of Penn State, Micah Parsons. Number 13, the Chargers select offensive tackle out of Northwestern, Rashawn Slater. Number 14, that is the trade the Jets pick get to have from the Minnesota Vikings to select offensive guard out of USC, Elijah Vera Tucker. 15, quarterback Mac Jones went to the Patriots. Number 16, the Cardinals select outside linebacker out of Tulsa, Xavier Collins. 17, the Raiders select offensive tackle Alex Leatherwood out of Alabama. 18, the Dolphins select D-end Jalen Phillips out of Miami. 19, the Washington football team select inside linebacker out of Kentucky, Jamin Davis. 20, this now the Giants pick originally was the Bears pick, but the Giants select wide receiver Kadarius Toney out of Florida. Sorry, man. And 21, the Colts select D-N Kwity Paye out of Michigan. 22, the Titans select cornerback Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech. 23, the Vikings select offensive tackle Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech. 24, the Steelers select running back Najee Harris out of Alabama. 25, the Jaguars select running back Travis Etienne out of Clemson. 26, the Browns select Greg Newsome II out of Northwestern. 27, the Ravens select wide receiver Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. 28, the Saints select D-N Peyton Turner out of Houston. 29, the Green Bay Packers select cornerback Eric Stokes out of Georgia. 30, the Bills select D-N Gregory Rousseau out of Miami. 31, which was a trade that got the Ravens to take from a trade that the Ravens got that they made with Kansas City Chiefs gave them this position to select outside linebacker Odefe Owe out of Penn State. And then 32, Bucks with wrapping up the round selected outside linebacker Joe Tryon out of Washington. All right. Now, who knew it would take that long to say all of that? But, hey, let me try to... sorry, guys. Let me see if we can get through what we need to get through, man. All right, but like I said, starting off with the Jaguars, because we're going to start in the AFC South. Jaguars last season ended their season with only winning one game, which was their first game, lost the next 15. Had the worst quarterback group, and so they definitely had to get the first pick, the top quarterback, which this year we did have great quarterback selections, and Trevor Lawrence being the best one scouted. He went first, all right? So they picked him 1 overall, but they also had the 25th pick in the first round and got his running back partner coming from Clemson, Travis Etienne. In the second round, they got the first pick and got Tyson Campbell, cornerback out of Georgia. All right, and they also had the 13th pick, so they were kind of loaded up pretty quick here. But they were able to select offensive tackle Walker Little out of Stanford. Get to the third round, their only pick in the third. They got safety Andre Cisco out of Syracuse. In the fourth round, they got defensive tackle Jay Tufili out of USC. And then also in the fourth round, they got Jordan Smith, the DN, out of UAB. Fifth round, they got tight end Luke Farrell out of Ohio State. And sixth round, 25th pick in the sixth round, they were able to select. They were able to select wide receiver Jalen Camp out of Georgia Tech. They did not have a selection in the seventh round. Okay, real quick unpack. What do I think they did? I think they did a good job with drafting. They got what they needed. You're in dire need for a quarterback. Of course, when you get a new quarterback, you got to make sure your O-line is tight. So they were able to, fix things up. They added Walker Little out of Stanford, which is a solid pick. Then on top of that, they needed a safety. Was able to get Andre Cisco. Good. Then, little pieces here that could probably assist with making them a little bit better as far as getting some weapons on offense. Receivers, tight ends, running backs. So, got Travis Etienne, solid. I believe he was ranked number 1 in his position coming into the draft. Then they were able to also grab the receiver Jalen Camp, Georgia Tech, tight end Luke Farrell, Ohio State. Good job. That was solid for them, I believe. I really think that was I don't know if it's going to make them championship ready, of course. We got to see how everything turns out with Urban Meyer and team and see how it translate. But I think it's a good little setup. It's a good start for sure. For sure, they were set to start. Okay. Next team we want to go to is the Houston Texans, who finished 4-12 in their division, having a lot of things going on in their lives in general. But let's see how they did in the draft. So the Texans, sad enough, did not have been as bad of a team as they were this past season outside of their quarterback being so successful. They did not have a first-round pick. They did not have a second-round pick. Their first pick wasn't until the third round. So the third pick overall, they were able to select quarterback Davis Mills out of Stanford. Then they also had the 26th pick in the third round. They got receiver Nico Collins out of Michigan. Fifth round, so no fourth round, no first, second, or fourth, or seventh, but yeah. Now going to the fifth round, they have the third and 26th pick. And the third pick, they select tight end Brevin Jordan out of Miami. With the 26th pick, they select inside linebacker Garrett Wallow out of TCU. And then in the sixth round, they had the 11th pick where they selected defensive tackle Roy Lopez out of Arizona. No disrespect to these young men. I expect them to do well. I feel a little unfortunate for them that they had to go to the situation they're going into. Hopefully they can make the best of it. But this is not looking too good for the organization. They didn't get enough of what they needed. They added a receiver, which I think was really needed. Unfortunately, they couldn't pick high enough to get the top of the top in receivers. Nico Collins was ranked 13 in his position, though. Overall ranking 76. So, of course, not a terrible pick at all. Like, once you really calculate the percentage of, people that you can have in that position in the United States. So, not a bad pick, just, with the quarterback situation they got going on. Davis Mills, who they select, technically their first pick, he was ranked 6th at his position, which is pretty good to say that, the top 5 quarterbacks that was on in the list, and they were able to get number 6, 63 overall ranking. Stanford, I'm not sure how well they did this past seasons, but he's able to make it to the NFL. So, I mean, he got him. I don't know if he's going to be the change or if he's just going to be a name on the back of a jersey, to be honest. So that's my thoughts on Houston Texans. If you ask me, they're probably going to be in last place next season. All right. Then we'll go over to the Indianapolis Colts, who went 11-5, have a new quarterback in Carson Wentz, and is looking for, I guess, just a little bit of change to make sure that they can get where they want to be. All right. Now, I think they did pretty good with their selections. I think they got pretty much everything they needed to a certain capacity. All right, so let's talk about it. First round, they had a first-round pick. Yes, they did. And in that first round, they had the 21st pick where they selected DN Kwity Paye out of Michigan. All right, Kwity Paye was the number one ranked DN, at his position. 18th overall, so this is a highly anticipated, this is somebody that everybody just knew would be going in the first round. He knew himself, celebrated with his family as he was selected. It was a beautiful sight. Said his mother is retiring now. 1 second. All right. And in the second round, in the 22nd pick, they got Dayo Adeyingbo, the DN out of Vanderbilt. So really beefing up that D-line there. So they didn't have a third round pick, but in the fourth round, 22nd pick, they selected tight end Kylan Grayson out of SMU. Fifth round, 21st pick, safety Sean Davis out of Florida. And then sixth round, this is where it gets a little interesting. 34th pick, they select quarterback Sam Ehlinger out of Texas. All right, so that's where Sam went, man. I don't know, is that did they sneak a pick to have a backup for Carson, or in case Carson doesn't work out, is Sam going in? Noted. In the seventh round, they actually had the first pick in the seventh round, and they selected receiver Mike Strachan out of Charleston. That's Charleston, West Virginia. And then their last pick at the end of the seventh round, the 21st pick, so I guess it's more mid, offensive tackle Will Fries, Penn State. So offensive tackles are definitely the, I believe, like the number one picked position. Like, it gets picked the most. Because everybody's going to need, a lineman to make, that linemen are very good. They get injured all the time. We got to make sure they're healthy and strong and be able to protect the biggest asset on the team, which is the quarterback. So, solid. Like I said, I think that they definitely needed some work on the D-line. I think they, had room to add a couple weapons as they did, and Mike Strachan and Kylan Grayson. And then on top of that, they was even able to sneak in there a decent quarterback to just in case they need to build up on. All right, so good job, Indiana. We'll see how it all turns out. I can't, it was easy for me to say Texas is probably going to be in last, but it's going to be a little bit more to see what the Colts are going to do. All right, now let's go to the division winners last season. The Tennessee Titans did finish first in this division, 11-5, so same record as the Colts, but they had one up on them as they defeated them in the season to have that position. Okay, I feel like the Titans' needs were, they could add a good receiver if need be, maybe a tight end, one or two, or depending on what the coaching staff, what kind of setups they wanted to do, maybe even two tight ends, who knows, and then just a little bit of protection defense like everybody else did. So secondary on defense, and then the O-line always. So they was able to grab pretty much all that. In the first round, they was able to get Caleb Farley, the cornerback out of Virginia Tech, which he was a very highly anticipated first rounder as well, ranked third in his position. Okay, and I actually think he went third as far as the order of the cornerbacks, so that checked out. Then in the second round, at 21st pick, they were able to get Dylan Raduns, offensive tackle, North Dakota State. Third round, they got Monty Rice, the inside linebacker from Georgia, and Elijah Molden, the cornerback out of Washington. Fourth round, they got receiver Dez Fitzpatrick and D-end Rashad Weaver. And then in the sixth round, they got receiver Racy McMath out of LSU, safety Brady Breeze out of Oregon. Okay, so they got the safeties, they got themselves a receiver. McMath was actually ranked 40th in this position, so it's good to see that LSU pretty much cleared out all of their receivers, getting them into the league. But they also got Des Fitzpatrick, who was ranked 29th at that position. All right, so got a couple weapons to help out, even though I feel like they had, at least one or two solid receivers. And then, like I said, beefed up the secondary with a safety and a cornerback and two cornerbacks. Good job. Good job, Tennessee. Okay, so the next division I'm going to go to, let me check the time, see where we're at now. Okay. All right, next division, because now it's looking like I'm going to have one division per time. Might have to do half and half here moving forward. And then for the next episode, you guys can get the full thing. All right, keep that in mind. Okay, so with that being said, AFC South, what do I think of you guys? I think the best chance of much, really, I don't think there's going to be a huge turnaround. I believe Indianapolis Colts and Jacksonville Jaguars will be competing for that number 2 position in that division. As I said, the Houston Texans will be last. So that gives the Tennessee Titans the dub again. As long as Henry's doing what he's doing, man, it's going to be hard to beat those guys. In that division, we're at another game. So who can withstand the longest in this season is going to be very interesting to see. All right. So correction. The way that this episode will be going is I will be covering the AFC's divisions on who all they selected and thoughts on that. And then to wrap it up, next episode we will get the NFC. All right. Keep that in mind. So it's going to be a 2-episode draft special, and that's because there's so much information. I just don't want to cover the first 3 rounds like most people do. Well, shoot, I think the majority is the first round. That's the only thing most people tune into. Matter of fact, this year, over 2 million people watched the draft over the Oscars. Yeah, so they, the draft blew out how many people watched the Oscars, and that's not a surprise. But yeah, a lot of people watched that first round, but really where dreams really happen is the second and third round on day 2 or whatever, and then everything else people just kind of sweep under the rug. But when you really think about it, as many times on here you've heard me discuss players, I usually tell you when they got drafted and who they got drafted to originally when they first came in the league and what year. And a lot of times, think about it, we don't hear too often those first round. You usually hear second, third round. Those are the superstars, all right? So keep that in mind. So that's why I don't like these people to be ignored, and we like to discuss, how these teams build on it. All right? So stay tuned. We're going to take a quick commercial break and be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back. This is the GSMC Football Podcast with your host, your guy, DJ Youngs. You are tuned in to the AFC Draft Special episode. Yes, that's what it is now. I hope you enjoyed that quick break, man. Just finished talking about the AFC South. So we just gonna go straight up to the top to the AFC North, man. Might as well talk about them next. This is the division that I speak so highly about as far as being one of the most competitive when it comes to division rivalry. All right, so starting off from the bottom to the top, as I said I would do. Cincinnati Bengals finished the season 4-11 after last season having the first overall pick, selecting the best quarterback to come out in that draft, Joe Burrow, who unfortunately was injured, right? So being that he got injured, that showed that they need a little bit better protection. They need to go into this draft seeking some offensive linemen. They did not only select one, but 3 offensive linemen. The catch here, though, is that they did not go there first. Let's talk about it. So, with the first round, 5th pick, the Cincinnati Bengals selected receiver Jamar Chase out of LSU. Jamar Chase was ranked number 1 in his position. He opted out this last season, but everybody hyped him up as still being, somebody very special who, caught the ball a lot as Joe Burrow's number 1 receiver back at LSU. So why not partner them back up, right? Sounds cool, but again, did you really tackle that need as hard as you need to? Did you get the best for what you wanted? I'm not mad at it. As I said in the last segment, offensive linemen come at abundance. Everybody needs them. They get selected the most. You definitely want to fight to, make sure you're recognized as someone that's valuable enough to be where you are. But at the same time, if we are being honest with ourselves, you still want to go for the best player who's available at a position you believe you may need, which technically they did need receivers, so why not go for the best who is scouted as the best and just so happened to be your quarterback's number 1 choice when he played with him. So I still feel like it's a solid pick. Smartest, that could be debated between individuals, but that is a solid pick for the Bengals. But let's see what the rest of what they got. All right, so with the second round now, 14th pick in the second round, they select the offensive tackle Jackson Carman out of Clemson. So this was their first lineman selection that they needed, and Jackson is actually ranked number 4 at his position, so not bad. The third round, 5th pick, they selected D.N. Joseph Osei out of Texas. 4th round, 6th pick, D.N. Cameron Sample out of Tulane. Also in the 4th round, mind you, they had 3 picks in the 4th round, so they were a little bit loaded in there. So also in the 4th round, with the 17th pick, they selected defensive tackle Tyler Shelvin out of LSU. And then with the 34th pick in the 4th round, they selected offensive tackle Deontay Smith out of East Carolina, who was ranked 13th at his position going into this. So, still solid. They figured they can get the people that they need, right? All right, 5th round, 5th pick, they got a punt kicker. All right, got themselves a kicker in Evan McPherson out of Florida. 6th pick in the 6th round, they selected center Trey Hill out of Georgia. 18th pick in the 6th round, so 2 picks in the 6th round here. Running back Chris Evans out of Michigan. And then their last pick, which was the funny enough, the 7th pick. Look how they had the 5th, 6th, and 7th pick in those coordinated rounds, right? So with their final pick, they selected D.N. Wyatt Hubert out of Kansas State. So you see that they, added some offensive linemen, but definitely want to, add defensive linemen as well. They got plenty of DNs. Got themselves the one, top receiver that was out there. I think it was okay. I think it's good. We got to see how it all turns out. Jamar Chase by himself makes them, higher than I would want to rate these selections. But then again, they couldn't, I guess, fail there. So I give them a solid 3.5 on a scale from 1 to 5 on how they do. So good job, Bengals. All right, moving on to the next team, which would be the Cleveland Browns. Mind you, these teams, the next three teams, had good records in the playoffs and everything. They all above 500. So Cleveland Browns went 11-5, but I guess technically they're still number 3 based off their winnings in the division. But went 11-5, number 3 in the division, but also already before this draft was projected to be my favorites for winning the division next year. So let's see how they did. All right, let's see if they addressed their needs. Okay, in the first round with the 26th pick, the Cleveland Browns select cornerback Greg Newsome II, Northwestern. Second round pick, the Browns select inside linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah out of Notre Dame. The third round with the 28th pick, they select receiver Anthony Schwartz out of Auburn. In the fourth round with the 5th pick, they select offensive tackle James Hudson out of Cincinnati. Also in the fourth round with the 27th pick, they select defensive tackle Tommy Tagovailoa, Ohio State. In the 5th round with the 9th pick, they select inside linebacker Tony Fields II, West Virginia. Also in the 5th round with the 25th pick, they select safety Richard LeCounte, Georgia. And in the 6th round, they select wide receiver Demetric Felton out of UCLA. They did not have a 7th round pick. Okay, so as far as needs, what they needed a DN, defensive tackle, inside linebacker, cornerback, receiver. Those are some things that they needed to help improve their team. They got all those but a DN. They start off with the cornerback, a solid cornerback in Greg Newsome II, who was ranked 4th in his position, had a good season at Northwestern, handling his business, high grade ranking for himself. So, his scheme is versatile with his size. He has good instinct, top speed, and everything like that. So, I think that was good to have him partner up with Ward, on their secondary. And then, like I said, they did identify with getting themselves a linebacker, which, if you ask me, Notre Dame is known for pushing out linebackers. So to be in the fact that they were able to get the number 1 linebacker because he's the number 1 at this position, Jeremiah was a good, solid 2nd round pickup, man. I'm even surprised that they was able to get him that far into things. All right. Well, actually, inside linebacker, I was about to say, because Pearson was top linebacker. But, all right. And then, like I said, they got themselves a receiver in Anthony Schwartz out of Auburn, which Auburn just was this season. But Anthony Schwartz has been, a solid individual, ranked 11 at his position coming into this draft. What a pick that they finesse right there. Don't sleep on Richard LeCounte, the safety out of Georgia, being picked at the bottom of the 5th round. Okay, and just to give you an idea, Demetric Felton, who was their last pick, 27th pick in the 6th round, is ranked 7th at his position going into this. All right, he's somebody else that can really get going. These guys are names that you should probably hear for the next few years. It's rare that people can go this high in a draft. So like Greg Newsome and then just disappear. Now, granted, when that does happen, it's noticeable. Everybody sees it because everybody's curious on what happened, right? That's what you always want to know. What happened? But the Cleveland Browns, if I was rating this from 1 to 5, I think their picks were a 3. I think they did good with their first 2 picks, and everything else was kind of what they can get. All right. Moving on to the next squad in the AFC North would be the Baltimore Ravens. So we all kind of know what we were looking for when it came to the Ravens pick. We were like, what help are they going to get Lamar Jackson? It's already been out that he's given his fifth year with the Baltimore Ravens. And, they've been in here competing, and they just been needing enough, right? Just enough. All right, so besides needing some weapons, of course, protection is always key, and defensive line. But they more so focused on, receivers, cornerbacks, linebackers, and guards. Let's see who they got. With their first pick, which they had 2 first-round picks. So with the first pick in the first round, which was the 27th pick, they selected Rashad Bateman, receiver, Minnesota. Okay, Rashad has been, highly scouted. He's been top 5 receivers going into this, so it's good that he was able to find a good home, and it was good that home was able to find one good thing that they needed for sure. All right, and their second pick, which is the 31st pick that they got from Kansas City, they selected Odafe Owe, outside linebacker, Penn State. Third round, 31st pick, they selected offensive guard Ben Cleveland out of Georgia. Cleveland, Georgia. Oh, confusing. No, I'm kidding. All right, 41st pick, third round, they select 41st pick. Okay. Third round, they selected cornerback Brandon Stevens, SMU. Fourth round, they selected wide receiver Tylan Wallace, Oklahoma State. Fifth round, they had 3 picks because they had no more for 6 and 7. So this is where they get their next 3 players from. The first one is Sean Wade, cornerback, Ohio State. Next, defensive end Dalen Hayes, Notre Dame. And last but certainly not least, fullback Ben Mason out of Michigan. All right, so did they get enough to get where they want to be? Well, Tylan Wallace was 12th ranked receiver at his position, and I don't know if that's enough, man. I like Bateman. Bateman's cool. You guys, just made some pickups. All right, so you got Sammy over there from Kansas City, but he's usually injured. Can Hollywood and Bateman, make it work with them? Maybe you just use Sammy as like a little decoy, but I always say you should have at least 3 though. 3 solid receivers or 2 receivers and a tight end, and you can make some things happen. So I feel like this is enough to make some things happen. You guys got yourselves a linebacker, a cornerback, and a defensive end in there. So add on to the defense, make them a little more aggressive. I think you could have got one more lineman instead of going for the fullback, to be honest. Maybe you picked up another lineman. But overall, I guess I'd have to give it a 4. I think this was a solid for what they were needing, what they were looking for. 4 it is. Okay. Moving on to the division winners of last season. Barely, almost. It looked like it was supposed to be unanimous, but, then it started getting a little shaky. But it was the Pittsburgh Steelers who ended the season at 12-4, lost in the playoffs pretty badly to the Cleveland Browns. Okay, so what did they need in that game? What would have been the 1 or 2 things that could have gotten them right there to defeat that team, to move on, to get to the Super Bowl? That's what this period is for. That's what they're supposed to be fitting in here. Being that they couldn't stop the Browns from scoring in the first couple minutes, it felt like. I think we need some defense here, right? On top of that, I would address maybe another weapon for the offense, but for sure some defense. You would think, right? Or is it just me? Maybe it's just me. Who knows? Anyway it goes, let's see what they selected anyway. All right. First round's 24th pick, they select Najee Harris out of Alabama, which was the second ranked running back behind Etienne in the draft. Okay, that was a good pickup, being that they no longer have James back there. That was a good one. Najee is very elusive. That's a great weapon. Kind of reminds me of a running back out of New Orleans. Okay. But in the second round, they got Pat Freiermuth, the tight end out of Penn State. Third round, center Kendrick Green out of Illinois. Fourth round, they had 2 picks. The first one, they selected offensive tackle Dan Moore Jr. out of Texas A&M. Then in that same round, they got inside linebacker Buddy Johnson out of Texas A&M. All right. Woo. Shout out. Fifth round, defensive tackle Isaiah Loudermilk, Wisconsin. Sixth round, outside linebacker Quincy Roush, Miami. Seventh round, which they had 2 picks in the 7th round. Their first pick in the 7th round, they selected cornerback Trey Norwood out of Oklahoma, and finished things up lastly with punter Presley Harvin III out of Georgia Tech. All right, so with this, do it get you over the hump? Does it make you the team to beat in your division, and maybe even the team to beat to win everything in the league? Well, I'm not really sure. I think Big Ben by himself may not be the quarterback answer. I don't know if they are going to make any changes. Well, any changes on, some trades or picking somebody up to make him his backup, but they didn't get any new guys. Mind you guys, after the draft, teams are allowed to select undrafted free agents. Okay? So the guys that were waiting, didn't get a call, they are free agents now. So could they still go out there and find somebody? Well, they didn't take advantage of it when they should have. That's noted. But they definitely did pay attention to needing a running back. I give them that. And they got a very good running back. That's great. But now, like I said, I think you should have addressed a little bit more defense. You got linebacker Buddy Johnson. Good job. And defensive tackle Isaiah Loudermilk. All right. So now, just to give you guys a little perspective on some of these positions. So Buddy Johnson was ranked 23rd at his position going into this. And then defensive tackle Isaiah Loudermilk, I do not believe was ranked at all at his position. But he's a 3-4 DN prospect with good size, just short arms. Not trying to take anything away from him, but I guess if you use him in the right scheme, then things will fall into place that you would appreciate. I didn't know offense to punters and kickers, but you know how good you got to be for you to be drafted in the NFL. So Presley was ranked 4th at the punting position. They got some people, man. They got some things to hopefully make a run for it, but I just can't see them beating the Browns. That wasn't enough, if you ask me, to get over that. They will be competing with the Pittsburgh Steelers will be competing with the Baltimore Ravens for number 2 here, and I have to say Baltimore has a better chance of beating them out. Okay, so the two little brothers that have been fighting to beat up the big brother for quite some time might both triumph the Steelers this season. All right, now that's just me, and I am not a certified scout out here, because these guys be studying these players all year, and especially in the off season coming up to the draft. They make sure that they know everything they need to know going through this many people, because look, it's 7 rounds and people be having multiple picks, and you just got to know what you need, who's the best at each position or next best, and things of that nature, and hopefully your team will be successful. All right, but that's the AFC North. We're going to take a quick commercial break and move on to the next division, so we'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Thank you for your patience. Hope you enjoyed that quick commercial break as we continue our AFC draft special, man. All right, so next up we do have the AFC East. That's where we're going next, man. Good division, competitive division that just got even more competitive. How so? Well, let's start at the bottom as we were supposed to, with the team that fell very, very, very short this past season, finishing 2-14, is the New York Jets. What did they do, man? Did they get it done? Well, let's see, man. In the first round, they had the 2nd overall pick, and I'm pretty sure everybody knew who it was. If you ever watched an episode of anything on ESPN in the last 2 weeks, we kind of had an idea of what the Jets were going to do with this second pick. So, first round, number 2 pick overall, the Jets select quarterback Zach Wilson out of BYU. As expected, Zach Wilson was ranked number 2 out of the quarterbacks this draft, right after Trevor Lawrence. All right, so they're hoping for him to be way better. But, I mean, do any of us know if this guy is really going to be better than Sam Darnold? Who knows? I think he's a little more athletic than Sam, so we'll definitely see. But let's see how they finished off doing everything else. They also had the number 14th pick overall, and with that, they got in there and got the offensive guard Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. Solid pick, man. Second round, 2nd pick overall. Receiver Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss, and then 2nd pick in the 4th round, running back Michael Carter, North Carolina. Okay, 5th round, safety Jamin Sherwood out of Auburn, also in the 5th round, which they had 3 picks in the 5th round. So the second one they got is another safety by another name of a running back. They just selected Michael Carter. This is Michael Carter the second, and he was the second Michael Carter selected out of Duke. And the last one in the 5th round is cornerback Jason Pinnock out of Pittsburgh. So really stacking up that secondary, getting some plenty of young guys. And that's just in the 5th round. They continue to add to this going into the 6th round, which they had another 3 picks in the 6th round to finish off things too, by the way, guys. They didn't have 7-round pick. But they go for safety, Hamza Nasirinding, Florida State, and then cornerback Braden Eccles out of Kentucky. A lot of young guys here playing DBs. All right, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 DBs, all back to back. They selected, beefing it up, and then they got their last pick was defensive tackle Jonathan Marshall out of Arkansas. Solid draft, if you ask me. Got their quarterback, got themselves a great guard, and a receiver that's a top, and then was able to get themselves a fair run game in second. Like, the only thing that I said what made this a perfect draft for the Jets, given what they had, would be if they got themselves a pass rusher in there, like an actual DN, not just a defensive tackle. But yeah, that would have been great for them. So I mean, I'm grading it a 4 out of 5. So pretty high still. So like I said, a really good deal that they had here, man. I don't know how well Zach Wilson would translate. I personally did not really keep up with him or watch many. I think I saw one BYU game, man, and I mean, he didn't really jump off. But like I said, the analysts are the guys that are sitting here and really breaking down the film and watching these guys since they were leaving high school. So Zach comes in there. They still have Tevin Coleman on the roster at running back, but now they add Michael Carter, the first Michael Carter, not the second Michael Carter. And then Elijah Moore to add with Corey Davis and Denzel Mims at receiver. I think that's good. That's good for them. On the offensive side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball, man, it's just going to be some great battles that I believe that they'll be having at practice to see who's going to be the starters here, man. A lot of young guys. They do have Quentin Williams on that D-line. Like I said, if they had like a defensive end right there on the edge, blitzing the quarterback, that would just really set it off. But as of right now, they still have Vinny Curry and Carl Lawson sitting at those positions, which Carl Lawson is a fair one. Like I said, but it just, we're getting into the day and age where a lot of great teams are having 2 on the line there. But yeah, the Jets have their opportunity now, I believe, to get out of last place. Now, who in the world? Now, again, this is an opportunity. Now, who in the world are they going to beat in their division enough to not be in last? Well, I'm not sure. Let's discuss that further. The team above them that came in third in the AFC East with a record of 7-9 is the New England Patriots. And, they spent arms and legs in free agency getting pieces. So now they come into the draft looking just to get, the last few things that they need. Now, what could that be? Well, one could be a quarterback, depending on how you feel about Cam Newton. But a lot of people believe they needed a quarterback. They needed the quarterback to have some weapons, get them some receivers, get some running backs or a running back. And then they just needed, defensive people to make things happen. Really all levels. Cornerback, linemen, and linebackers. Now, they got most of that, actually, surprisingly. Their first pick was Mac Jones, quarterback out of Alabama. Picked him 15th overall, fell to him. Luckily enough, no one else got him, even though I believed he was ranked 3 at his position. It says he was ranked 5 at his position, but yeah, I think everyone knew that San Francisco at 3 was either picking him or Trey, which they ended up going with Trey, and then they were able to, no one got him in between those two. The only other person was Chicago moved up to get Justin. So I think Bill got who he wanted, getting, straight from the Nick Saban camp which he loves the Nick Saban camp, and you can, because the Patriots have selected more Alabama people than any other team, and their first 2 picks were Alabama students, athletes, because their second pick in the second round, 6th pick, was Christian Barmore, defensive tackle, Alabama. Third round, DN Ronnie Perkins out of Oklahoma. 4th round, running back Rahamdre Stevenson out of Oklahoma. 5th round, inside linebacker Cameron McGrone out of Michigan. 6th round, they had 2 picks. The first pick was the 4th pick in the 6th round, where they selected safety Joshua Bledsoe, Missouri. And then the 13th pick in the 6th round, they selected offensive tackle William Sherman out of Colorado. Their last pick was in the 7th round. They selected wide receiver Trey Nixon out of UCF, which was a sneaky good pick, to end things. Trey was somebody, we haven't really seen much of or heard much of, but he has a great burst. He could change directions very easily, unlike a lot of receivers and DBs being able to move, but with that, he can develop into a great route runner, really. He has the top end speed to threaten, the downfield deep threat balls and pick up yards after the catch. I like Trey. That, like I said, that was a good one. Good thing about receivers, man, that is a very versatile position. A lot of guys can be good at that position. If you're an athlete, athletes come in many forms, because, when it comes to skill players, when it comes to DBs, safeties, receivers, quarterbacks even, all of them can be used in so many different ways. Like, even in this draft, you hear about individuals that are literally playing linebacker that actually came into college playing quarterback, stuff like that. So people that translate very well. Trey, I believe, could be used in many ways: outside receiver, slot receiver, things of that nature. And I'm just talking about their last pick. Let's go back to the top here. Let's talk about Mac Jones. Mac Jones was a good quarterback surrounded by greatness, is what I believe. I'm not saying that he is incapable of leading a team to a victorious season, but I think it's going to take work. I think it's not going to translate or happen as effortlessly as some of these other guys, as Lawrence, Fields, those guys I feel like really got what it takes to just make things happen, whereas Mac Jones had people behind him, coaching staffs and players next to him, that could make almost anything happen. So it definitely made him look good. So now that he is with Coach Belichick, that's Belichick's game, is he knows how to make people look good anyway. That's why you always hear the jokes about Tom Brady having, skilled players and receivers from, out of nowhere that he can make, stars. Part of that is Coach Belichick putting them in the right position with the right schemes, okay, versus their opponents. So Mac Jones, you're in the best place you can be. As far as the Patriots selected Mac Jones, I wish you the best in making it happen. All right. Christian Barmore was another great pick. He was the first person ranked at this position that he is at, and he is absolutely madness, as he has good coverage and destroys linemen getting to the quarterback. He really battles at double teams and everything. Those don't really hold him back. He locates the ball quickly, and chases with good effort, excellent range with his size. So he gets at it, man. He gets at it. He's 6'4", 310. All right, so big, solid guy. Really going to be causing some trouble here in this division for the quarterbacks. Okay. Again, they also grabbed running back Rahamdre Stevenson out of Oklahoma. Now, he was ranked 6th at his position, 110th overall. He's a big back. Got a little more weight on him. He's 6 foot 231. All right, so hopefully a solid power back, which usually the Patriots aren't too big on, having elusive running backs, but more of a solid, strong running back, plus maybe just one that, has good hands, so which he has both. He, has a good, being given his size, he has that good pass block, skill with him, and then, being just a heavy dude, even after you get hit, he can still drop a few more yards, which is why he averaged 7.2 yards per carry on more than 160 carry rushes while he was in college. All right, solid pick. If I was to grade this scale 1 to 5, you also get a 4, but that's only because you guys, Patriots, you guys scooped up so much in the free agency to fill a lot of those holes. So that's why you get what you get. But solid. Moving on to the next team, which would be the Miami Dolphins. Oh, man, the Miami Dolphins. I don't know what we should have expected wholeheartedly. But the thing is, the Dolphins is a team that I've been saying is on the come up. You got Tua. All right, you decided that that's your guy, so you need to put some things around him. So how did they do that? Well, in the first round, they had 2 picks. The first pick, they selected Jalen Waddle, one of his old receivers, one of the best receivers they had. The closest thing that a lot of people say is to Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle, the superstar running back, very quick with his feet, actually just was ranked 3rd in his position, but you got to remember he was ranked 3rd in his position with missing a lot of games this last season with a serious injury. He is an undersized slot receiver and punt returner who is the most dangerous player in the draft with the ball in his hands. Okay, now I say undersized a slot receiver because that's how people look at him, as he is 5'10", 180, but that's a strong kid. His burst explodes out breaks. He, can change quick when he's healthy. Of course, not looking at him being hurt where he was. But like I said, this is a reunion for Tua, man. Him and Waddle connected for nearly 800 yards when they were at Alabama together. So they'll definitely have that relationship, and now it adds to the receivers that the Miami has now. So Waddle, Fuller, and Parker. So they should have some good times together there. Now, moving on from Waddle, the 18th pick in the first round, they selected Jalen Phillips out of Miami, who's the number 2 DN in this draft. But this is a kid that had triumphed so much, man. Having to medically retire and everything, and still coming back to do his thing, which is really cool. So good seeing that young man make his dreams come true, and getting on a team that also needed a pass rusher. So good job. Well, I say need, but all in all, it's just everybody technically needs a pass rusher. Everybody always just needs a good, solid pass rusher to just be getting at it, So they got him there, which is good addition. I mean, they have the number 1 safety on that defense with Xavier Howard, and I think that was a good. But let's continue to see who else they got. It's a second round, 4th pick, safety Javon Holland out of Oregon. Also in the second round, they got offensive tackle Liam Ellingerberg, Notre Dame. In the third round, they selected tight end Hunter Long out of Boston College. And Hunter was number 2 at the tight end position. So that was a great pickup all the way in the third round. And in the 7th round, because they didn't have any picks from round 3 to round 7, they had 2 in round 7. Their first pick in round 7 was offensive tackle Larnell Coleman out of UMass, so University of Massachusetts. And their final pick was running back Garrick Doak out of Cincinnati. I think they could have been a little more attentive. They got 2 offensive tackles. I think they should have at least got an offensive alignment, one like a guard, one guard in there, maybe instead of that safety pickup, if you ask me. Because I feel like Jalen Phillips at the end is solid. You cannot argue with them getting Waddle. They definitely needed a receiver, and that's a great receiver to tag along with his former quarterback. So What does this mean for the Dolphins? Does this mean that they win the division next season? I don't know if this is enough. I don't. I think they will be a good competitor. But as far as coming in and taking over for the Buffalo Bills, who is favored on my end, and I'm pretty sure most people's in to win the division again, doubtful. But I can definitely see them sticking in there, fighting probably even harder now for that second position. Well, really all three of them, because you can't sleep on the Patriots. You really can't. I want to say the Dolphins will be fighting for second with the Patriots, but at the same time, the Patriots are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Shoot, they might be number one, and Miami and Buffalo might be fighting for number two. Either way it go, I feel like those will be the top three. The Jets still are not going to be the greatest team, but then again, if I could see it any other way, I could see it as being the Dolphins being the team to struggle here. If I had to choose somebody outside the Jets, yeah, that's where it goes. So we will see how all of that translate and if Tua can get it rolling. Now let's go to their division leaders / winners / unstoppables. To the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills finished 13-3. So when you finish 13-3, it's always hard to say what was needed more than what could help change that a little bit. All right. So what could help change that a little bit is they needed a pass rusher, maybe another running back, a good running back, tackle. Offensive tackles always need tackles to protect the quarterback, and a little bit of defensive players. All right. And they really leaned. They got themselves some tackles and defensive players, and that was pretty much it. Outside of that, they got one skill player on the offensive side of the ball. So let's break down what the Bills did in this draft. In the first round, 30th pick, they selected defensive end Gregory Rousseau out of Miami, which is the 7th. He was ranked 7th at that position, but clearly they saw what they like. I mean, clearly the guy is long, okay? He being a DN, it's going to be hard to get around this kid when you're trying to throw balls past him and stuff. He's 6'7", 266 pounds, long arms. Come on, man. It's going to be this is why he was drafted in the first round, okay? It makes sense, but let's continue what they did. Second round, they got Carlos Basham Jr., the DN out of Wake Forest. So you see they really adding on to that line. Then they went over to the offensive tackles, and so in the third round they selected offensive tackle Spencer Brown out of Northern Iowa, and then no pick in the fourth round. In the fifth round they were able to get offensive tackle Tommy Doyle out of Miami. Okay. In sixth round they had 3 picks. The first pick in the sixth round for them, they selected receiver Marquez Stevenson out of Houston, then safety DeMar Hamlin out of Pittsburgh, and cornerback Rashad Wild Goose out of Wisconsin. Okay, that's a solid 6th round for them, having 3 picks. One last pick, their final pick in the 7th round, 8th pick in the 7th round. They selected offensive guard Jack Anderson from Texas Tech. So added to the offensive line solidly in order to have enough people to protect their superstar quarterback. So good there. On defense, decided to get themselves a solid safety. DeMar was ranked 8th at his position. All right. Very good at what he do. Coming in at 6'1", 200 pounds, helps him stay light on his feet, make the moves he needs to make in order to, stay strong and get to them balls, man, in the air. He's good for it. I'll give him that. Selecting 2 DNs as their first 2 picks, and one in the first round, one in the second round, shows you that they are definitely trying to stop Patrick Mahomes. They needed somebody to get at him so that he could stop, scoring, so that they can move on. So I'm not mad at that. Based off what the Bills have and what they needed, more so because of what they already had. They were sitting pretty good. They didn't need much, but what they needed, they definitely fulfilled, if you ask me. Like I said, if anything else, they could add a running back, but they can get that from other places. Given their pick, they, and the running backs that were available, I feel like the choices they made were fine. So I give them a 4.5, man. theirs is a little bit easier, so, you can say it might be unfair that their grade's so high, but it was easy decisions for them, if you ask me. All right? So, good job there, and that's, with me saying that, as you heard, that this division could go a few different ways. Going into it, you still have to say that the favorite is still going to be Buffalo Bills. But we do need to still see what is going to happen with the Patriots. All right. That is the AFC East. All right. Now it's time for a quick commercial break, and we can wrap this thing up with the final division in the AFC West. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Okay, thank you once again for your patience. We are finally here. The last segment, the last division to discuss. All right, and that would be the AFC West. All right, this is where the team that went to the Super Bowl is in. So definitely quite an interesting, the team that is expected to go to Super Bowl quite a few more times throughout the next 8 years for sure. Given that they have a quarterback who's on contract long enough to attend and keep taking them there. All right, so starting from the bottom to the top, as usual, in the AFC West, the team coming last place in this division last year, the Denver Broncos finished 5-11. Now, this is like top two teams of the head scratching when it came to their selections. You ask me, you ask a lot of people, a few things that the Broncos needed: quarterback, a few linemen, linebackers, DBs. Well, DJ, so if that's what they need, about how much did they get? Well, they got linemen, one to be exact, and DBs, 2. Now, mind you, they had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 picks, even though there's only 7 rounds. 10 picks, and only got that because everything else they got was, actually, I take that back. They got 2 cornerbacks, and they also got 2 safeties, so 4 DBs they got. So what about the most important one that we all believe that they needed, which was the quarterback? Now, the day before the draft started, they did go and get Teddy Bridgewater, but Teddy Bridgewater is somebody you get based off of their history as a backup as of right now until they prove you wrong. But you brought him in to compete with Drew Lock. Either Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater will be the starter for the Denver Broncos this coming season. And I think that's a little unfair to the Denver Broncos players. They need a little bit more, man. But let's just talk about let's get it out the way, and let me tell you the 10 players that they selected, which, nothing against these guys. They got good players. It's just where they're going, I don't know if they were that much needed. Let's talk about it. So, coming in at their first pick in the first round, 9th pick overall, it just breaking the heart of the poor Dallas franchise, but Dallas was able to make up for it well, if you ask me. They selected Pat Surtain II out of Alabama, cornerback, not quarterback. Just to be clear there. All right. Now, Pat is ranked number 1 at his position, so he was a top DB, top cornerback specifically. And that's something I guess, they did need. So, not mad at it being their first pick, but then it's kind of like, well, where are you going next? Well, in the second round, they decided to go to running back. Second round, third pick, they picked Javonte Williams out of North Carolina, which is really good running back. He was ranked number 3. So he was up there in the conversation with Etienne and Alabama's running back. All right, so, Javonte is a good running back. That's good. I mean, but does that say you guys don't really believe too much in Melvin Gordon? I believe Melvin Gordon is a solid running back if you use him the right way. But, hey, add to it. You definitely want to have enough skilled players. You got Cortland Sutton coming back, hopefully fully healthy this upcoming season. You got Jared Jeudy last year, solid receiver there. Okay. Well, let's see what you did about the line since you got that. Well, they got offensive guard Quinn Meinerz, and he is out of Wisconsin Whitewater. He was picked their first pick in the third round because they had 2 picks. The second pick that they had in the third round was outside linebacker Baron Browning, Ohio State. Yeah, no pick in the fourth round, but they did have 2 picks in the fifth round. Their first pick was safety Caden Stearns out of Texas. Their second pick was safety Jamar Johnson out of Indiana. Trying to really beef up that secondary, man. I understand they're already out of the first 6 picks. That's 3, so half of their picks are DBs. All right. Next up in the 6th round, they selected receiver Seth Williams out of Auburn. And then in the 7th pick, they had 3 picks. They went for another DB, so they got cornerback Kerry Vincent Jr. out of LSU. And then their last 2 picks are both DNs. DN Jonathan Cooper out of Ohio State, and DN Marquise Spencer out of Mississippi State was their final selection. Okay, so Broncos. Is this enough? Well, seems like you'll have a decent defense. I guess that's a start. And then you're going to really have to rely on one of these quarterbacks to make it happen. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's impossible. I mean, I have lower faith in Drew Lock than I do in Teddy Bridgewater, though. So, we'll see who wins that battle and come out on top in order to possibly compete in this division, which is, not the easiest one. All right. Up next is coming in third in this division this past season with a record of 7-9, the Los Angeles Chargers. All right, now the Chargers. Let's discuss what the Chargers are working with before the draft. Okay, so that we can get a picture here for you guys. So, Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert. Really good guy, man. Really good player. I think everybody pretty much likes him for sure. All right. He really showed out. Won Offensive Rookie of the Year and everything. You just got to protect him, keep him healthy. You don't want him ending up like the rest of the quarterbacks that got Joe Burrow's unfortunate situation or anyone else's. So you want to get someone to protect him. They also have back there Austin Eckler. All right. Austin Eckler at running back has been doing his thing for them. So, and then Keelan Allen, who was a Pro Bowl, superstar. Got Mike Williams. Solid offense, man. You asked me, they got the linemen holding it down. Corey Linsley at center. All right. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they are, hoping that, Joey Bosa comes back healthy and is able to do what he needs to do. Also, they have Uchenna Nwosu handling his business. And at safety, they had Derwin James and Nasir Adrile. So, this brings to the question, what is the things, the individual, the pieces that you all need in order to get things, staying scrappy and keeping it up there? Because right now they're just floating right there in the middle, the lower middle, but just in the middle as far as competing. They need to get more than that, right? So, as like I said, protection. They got this quarterback. They need an offensive lineman, offensive tackle specifically, to really protect, which they took care of well. All right. On top of that, they need some weapons: tight ends, receivers, running back. Get anybody, any of that. If you ask me, like I said, Eckler's good, but I mean, whatever you can add to that. And then the defense, DBs, and defensive tackles. Get some of them people to reach an interior on that defensive line. So the only thing that they did not really accomplish here is eating up in the middle, the defensive tackle. So let's talk about their picks, all right? First pick, 13th pick overall. They select offensive tackle Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern, the number 2 at his position. Good job. That was a good pick. That was the only way you were supposed to pick on that first pick, okay? Good job. So not mad at that. I have nothing negative to say. Moving on, second round, they got cornerback Asante Samuel Jr. out of Florida State. Third round, they had 2 picks. The first one, they selected receiver Josh Palmer out of Tennessee. Continuing the third round, their second pick, they selected tight end Trey McKitty out of Georgia. Fourth round, outside linebacker Chris Rumpf out of Duke. Fifth round, they got an offensive tackle Braden James, Nebraska. Sixth round, they had 2 selections. The first one, inside linebacker Nick Neiman out of Iowa, and then running back Larry Rountree III out of Missouri. All right, good. And then the final one is in the 7th round. Their pick was safety Mark Webb out of Georgia. Good, and good. If you ask me, you got Rashawn Slater, who's top, and then you even got Braden James, who was 20th ranked in his position, so still a good pickup. 6'5", 298. Jesus Christ, out of Nebraska. That's a solid young man. All right, so you got your quarterback protected. Good job. I'm proud of you. All right, good job. I like for. And then we go over to, some weapons, getting them some people in there. All right, so you got Trey McKitty, who sticked at his position at tight end. I think that's a good one. I'm hoping you guys use him right and translate well. But then on top of that, you got a good receiver in Josh Palmer, 31st ranked at receiver. But again, this was somebody they were able to grab in the 3rd round, 14th pick in the 3rd round. So out of everybody already going, and a lot of receivers were selected, I think that was okay. The Chargers got a playmaker in Palmer, which he's just, what Justin Herbert needs. He needed some playmakers. So, just to add on, because when everybody's double teaming Keenan Allen, you just need somebody else to get out there and make things happen. So, he is a big target who was a bit inconsistent in Tennessee. 99 receptions for 1,514 yards and 7 touchdowns in his 4 seasons with Tennessee. But, hey, I think that's enough to make you guys still compete better. Like, when you go into the draft, either you're trying to do an overhaul and just change just everything about your organization, or you're trying to get what you need to continue the trajectory of success that you're attempting. So the Chargers was a team that got Justin Herbert, and they were on that way. They were making those moves last season. Again, nothing too crazy. I'm not saying they just came out and was amazing. They did go 7-9, but I don't think they'll be under 500 next season. I think with the solid selections they made to compete, especially in this division, they did good. All right, now we're going on to the next team, the team that came in second in this division, the team that went 8-8, which they can't go 8-8 anymore because now they'll be playing 17 games. But that team is the Las Vegas Raiders. Okay, Las Vegas Raiders is a team that has been trying to compete. Matter of fact, they sent Kansas City their first L. All right, now one thing I'd say I don't believe Las Vegas is in need of is a quarterback. In this time, in this where they are and who they have, Derek's getting it done, man. I give you that. Derek's a solid quarterback. Back door, they got Marcus Mariota. In the backfield, running back, they got Josh Jacobs, receiver that they was able to get in there last season, and Henry Ruggs. I guess you could add to that, but that's a good one. And Darren Waller. So, offense pretty solid. I definitely think they needed a little more help on their defense if I had to choose either side, right? And so let's see if they address their defense. So their first pick was Alex Leatherwood, Alabama, offensive tackle. Now, I don't be arguing too much about offensive tackles, and just offensive linemen. You need to protect your quarterback at all costs. So good pick up there. Then they finessed and broke some more hearts yet again. So Cowboys' hearts broken yet again. In their second pick, which they picked right before the Cowboys pick, they got safety Trevon Moehrig out of TCU. Trevon was ranked number 1 at his position and didn't go to the 11th pick in the second round. Very surprising to me, but that just so happens to be the case. In third round, they were able to get 2 selections. The first one was outside linebacker Malcolm Kunitz out of Buffalo, and then the second one was safety Divine Diablo, Virginia Tech. Going into the fourth round, they were able to get safety Tyree Gillespie out of Missouri. Fifth round, cornerback Nate Hobbs out of Illinois. No 6th round pick, but then in the 7th round, the Raiders selected center Jimmy Morrissey out of Pittsburgh. So, according to the analysis, they did good by getting themselves, filling the need of a tackle, cornerback, and a safety, but not filling the need of defensive tackle and a receiver, which, like I said, I think Ruggs needs a little more help. Darren Waller, I always try to go for 3, so that's one tight end, 1 receiver that you can really have there. They don't have Aguilar as a deep threat anymore, so maybe they should have went somebody for a deep threat at 3, if you ask me. The third pick is what I mean by at 3. But, hey, you got yourself a linebacker. I think you needed that. You know better than me. Can't argue with that. Overall, I guess I give that a 3 out of 5 for them as far as their selection. Okay. Now, is it going to get them over that hump? No, actually, if you ask me, if I'm being honest, as good as these individuals they selected are, I think they might even fall. Okay, this might be where the Chargers come in and jump above them. They definitely, if you ask me, I believe may have the better quarterback. I think I'm not saying Derek's gonna fall off, but I just think that Justin is gonna just get better. Okay. All right, now for the team with the best quarterback in the division, the team that has all of the weapons, the team that is going to be tough to beat for a while, the Kansas City Chiefs, who went 14-2. All right, only losing 2 games, 14-2 in the regular season, went all the way to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, got whooped in the Super Bowl. So why did they get whooped? Well, for starters, they have weapons, but they couldn't get in the end zone, man. They couldn't get in the end zone for a few different reasons. One, Buccaneers just have a really, really tough defense. So they were getting the stops they needed. But I'd say that I think they still need to beef up their defense because they couldn't stop them. They couldn't stop the Bucs from scoring. So they need to add to it, man. So let's see what they did. First round, they gave up their first round pick to get the offensive lineman they needed to help protect Patrick Mahomes. So they didn't have it, but they did have 2 second-round picks. So their first pick was in the second round, 26th pick, Nick Bolton, the inside linebacker from Missouri. And then that second one they got at 31 was the center, Creed Humphrey out of Oklahoma. Fourth round, they did not have a third-round pick. So fourth-round pick, they got DN Joshua Keindo out of Florida State. And then a fifth round, and they selected tight end Noah Gray out of Duke. Also in the fifth round with the 37th pick, they had selected receiver Cornell Powell out of Clemson. Now, that was a good sneaky pick. Receiver getting Cornell Powell. He, because he has a good size and bigger hands and arms, that makes him a strong catcher. He tracks the ball really well. Gets down there. He did a good job apparently at the Senior Bowl. His smooth transitions, upfield, and he's a very strong runner. So, showing that he's only ranked 39th surprises me. Getting that low at 6 foot and then 204 pounds. But continuing, their last pick was in the 6th round. They did not have a 7th round pick, but they were able to get offensive guard Trey Smith out of Tennessee. So getting people to protect your quarterback is always good. All right. Now, when we talk about centers, that's always a little bit more. It's like it's protection plus having a skill set, because you got to be able to snap the ball to the quarterback, have a chemistry with him to where the ball's not ending up on the ground. You don't want that. Turnovers are bad. Okay. So when you're able to get drafted as a center, that's a good sign. That's really good. All right. So is this what they needed? Well, definitely say, yeah, they got themselves a DN, which, they needed somebody to get at Tom Brady a little bit more, right? Joshua is ranked 14th at his position, but he is 6'6", 260. So he's tall, long limbs, and he's not that heavy. He's able to move around pretty fast. I like that. He's flexible, for his size, and he ran better than expected at his pro day. So that shows you that, he can get at it when you need to. They just need to, train them the proper way. They also fulfilled, like I said, a receiver position. They just needed a little backup. Of course, Sammy's out of there, and everybody's going to be, doing what they can do to cover Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. But they, might even handle themselves a little double tight end threat as they got Noah Gray out of Duke. He's 7th at his position, 6'3", 240. So great size for a tight end. And maybe, I don't have any stats on him, but I'm pretty sure he'll go in and handle his business, man. And they was able to get that pick because they had got that from Miami, who Miami got it through Las Vegas and the New York Jets trade that they had made. So that's how they were able to get him in that 5th round pick at number 18. Okay, but Kansas City, it's going to take a while before we can actually ever feel comfortable saying that they are not going to win their division. There's going to be a lot I need to see from the other 3 teams in this division before I ever think any of them could compete with what's lined up here. I'm talking about Patrick Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Tyreek Hill, Mecole Hardman, Travis Kelce. They didn't beefed up the line. They were able to finesse Orlando Brown, Joe Thuney. Like, that offense right there is solid, man. Then on defense, they got Tyrann Mathieu, Juwan Thornhill, Snead, Willie Gay. All right, so now you got Nick Bolton jumping in there, man. I think that's solid. They got Frank Clark on the line, Chris Jones on the line. Those are good people, man. So they just needed just a little bit more, a little sprinkle, and I think that's what they got, is a little sprinkle. So I give them what they had, man, and what they needed. That's definitely another 4.5 rating if we're being honest. And I say Kansas City takes the division again. Going to have Las Vegas competing for that second spot with whoever, and I guess everybody else is trying to fight not to fall too far to the bottom, man. But that is the AFC, man. That's who we have. That's what they got. That's what the outcomes should look like based off of my speculations, man. Some things I do want to take note of is just, things that happen in this draft in general. Some special things. So for starters, NFL teams in this draft selected a record 65 players from the SEC schools during this draft, and that just shows you how dominant that conference is. It's always high, but the fact that they just broke their own record again is crazy. So the previous mark was set by the SEC with 64 in 2019. In fact, the 4 highest total of draft players from one conference belongs to the SEC. They had 63 drafted in 2013, 63 drafted in 2020, so just last year, 64 drafted in 2019, which originally was the highest, and now they had 65 drafted in 2021. The SEC, has the guys. I believe they really started off high. Like this year, the SEC Hall included 6 of the first 10 picks and 12 of the 32 players selected in the first round. All right, so I mean, you heard their names. So the Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, all those guys, man. Like it only made sense. The next closest conference in this year's draft was the ACC with 51 players drafted, including Trevor Lawrence, who was first overall. The Big Ten had 44 draftees. The Pac-12 had 28, and the Big 12 had 22. So that kind of tells all the young kids to kind of get an idea of what kind of conference you want to go to, compete in, which one get watched the most, which one gets seen the most, in order to, fulfill your dreams, guys, of being drafted into the NFL. I know that's what the young men out there want. So a couple other cool stats. Offensive players were taken with each of the first 7 picks of the draft, which is the latest the first defender has gone off the board in the common draft era, which is since 1967. So being at the first 7 were offensive players, and then they didn't get the defensive player until 8. All right, 8 quarterbacks through the top 3 rounds were the most in the common draft era. So this draft class definitely came hard with the top 5 quarterbacks that they had. That was highly scouted, but they had 8 go in the top 3. So that is cool. And then another cool stat is it was the first time ever that at least 5 wide receivers were taken in each of the first 3 rounds. So receivers were high commodity, which is also why I mentioned, where some of these guys are ranked and still going, through the end. But as always, man, hey, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was the AFC draft special. Next episode will be the NFC, where it gets even more interesting. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe if you haven't already, just to show some love and write some reviews if possible. Really helps us out. Lets me know what you think of the show. Also, if you can, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, GSMC_football. We like to tweet. We like to post. We like to tell you guys what's going on. We like to tell you guys our thoughts about big news. All right. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Good night. Good evening. Whatever it is for you. Just enjoy the rest of your day. See you guys later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.